if I've made a big mistake. I did have a potential trick up our sleeve, and that is welcome back to KM Builds, or welcome to the channel if it's your first time tuning in. As the title and thumbnail suggests, this is my new daily. So I've picked up another car from Copart. If you didn't catch our previous video, I rebuilt a Clio, which to be honest made a number of mistakes. Really interesting video if you want to learn a bit more about Copart. But today's video is going to be very much focused on rebuilding this. As I mentioned, it's going to be my new daily, but the first thing we need to do is obviously get it back on the road. So what we're going to do is just deep dive into the damage, as you can see, sort of front end. So if we take a quick look at why this car ended up in Copart, as you can sort of see from the front end, it's a front end collision. The rear doesn't have any damage, the quarters, the boot, nothing like that. So it is purely just through the front end. As we can see, the headlight is missing. I have got that, but it's extremely damaged, and I took it out so that sort of water and everything didn't get in the electrics. We need a bottom grille here, and also the bumper's split in half. Now I do have a plan for the bumper with another one that I have, but whether that plays off we'll know later in the video. But mostly it seems like the impact is under the car and through the radiator, so I'm hoping that there's not much else to it. But like with these things, until we deep dive into it, we're not going to know exactly what we need. Now I have a number of parts already, so the headlight, the grille, the radiator, because this is, as we can see from the dust here, it's been sat quite a while in the unit while we focused on other projects, but we got a bit of time now to tackle this. So let's get the front end off and see if I've made a big mistake. So all we're doing now is just getting the car on the ramp. So unfortunately, because I had the issue with the tyres, 3 out of the 4 flat, and when we pulled the car in on the ramp, I didn't position it where it needs to. So we worked around that, basically jacked it up on the one side, ramp on the other, just allowed me to get it up. And then all I'm doing is stripping the front bumper. So there's a couple of clips on the, or in the arch lining, and then a couple of bolts and clips on the top, just taking off the airbox, things like that, just to get easier access. And then it's relatively easy to get it all off. Ken jumps in just to get all the sensors out, and then good to go. Now we've got the front bumper off, I just wanted to show you sort of some of the damage. As you can see, it's primarily through the intercooler rad pack area, which is what I've got in the boot. So the aim will be now just to get that off and replace it. There's a few scrapes underneath, but nothing looks bent, so we'll just have a look at that and see if it needs any replacement parts. The front end was relatively easy to get off, so all I'm doing now is just unbolting the headlight. So there's a bolt on the top, one on the bottom left, and then one on the bottom right. I think they're all pretty much 10 mil, so pretty easy to pop out. And then same for the crash bar. There's 4 main bolts that attach it to the cross member that go into the car, and again, all relatively easy bolt on parts. So the aim here is just to get everything off and start to have a look at how much damage is on the front end in terms of the radiator, intercooler, and those pieces really. We've managed to get the new radiator on, so I've attached all the hoses on the back. We've now just got to put on the intercooler. Fortunately, because we bought a rad pack, it is pretty much just bolt on with all the existing hoses. So jumping back into it, we are quite a bit further into the process now. So we have got the new rad pack on. We did have an absolute mare when it come to the AC condenser. Some of the fittings on that were just seized. Ken's been helping me for God knows how long, just trying to work around a solution. So we have got something for that now, so we could check in on the car and progress. While it was up in the air, I have chucked some fresh oil in it. Didn't record that because again, there's 1,000 oil changes on YouTube. It's nothing exciting, but we have done that because it will be my new daily. And apart from that, the plan now is just try and get everything bolted back up. All the hoses and everything went on fine. No extra bolts or clips left over, which is always a positive. But the aim will be now just to get the front end looking sort of relatively good, and then tackle the headlights and move on to the bumper. Just popping on the last few remaining clips for the intercooler, and that will wrap up all of the rad pack replacement for the front end. The last bit of the process now for the front end before we move on to the headlights and the bumpers is getting that crash bar back in. So fortunately the damage was, as I mentioned earlier, on the bottom half of the car, so that meant that the crash bar and the sort of structure around that was all absolutely fine, so I didn't need to replace any parts there. As I mentioned earlier, it was just sort of 4 bolts on the main subframe. You can see me here just attaching those through, bolt and nut, really simple. So I've got most of the front end bolted up now. There's a few wires left over which are what go to the bumper sensors. There's quite a lot of fiddly bits on here really, nothing too interesting. There's 4 bolts or main subframe bolts, crash bar bolts. These go on each side, and then there's 2 for the headlight bracket. So 8 bolts in total to get this bar off. I did have a bit of trouble getting this in. I bolted it up and then realized I didn't get this side in. So just paid a bit of idiot tax, got it off and then put it back on. Number of other sensors on the other side of the car, which just again had to be bolted in, nothing major. Pretty simple, to be fair, a lot easier than the Clio that I've done before. It's just, yeah, just night and day difference in terms of very bolt on, bolt off. So what I'm going to do now is just crack on, get a few more bits on. So most of the front end has been bolted together now. Gone and picked up some coolant, so the real test will be filling up that coolant bottle. It says about 10 litres online, but I'll work it up and see what we need to use really, and hopefully, fingers crossed, no leaks. I've also had to go and get some of the tyres replaced. Unfortunately, as you can probably see here, when I had it delivered from Copart, they damaged 3 out of the 4 tyres, so I've had to have them replaced. So what we'll do now is chuck the coolant in, change the battery, do a few other bits, and then fingers crossed start it up and run it. Okay, so now we have finished messing around with the engine, so the coolant, oil, everything's done. We will have to take it outside to run it up to temperature, just because I don't want to gas myself out in the unit. Tip of the day if you don't want to die really. So the plan will be to, when we can, get that out of the unit, run it up to temp. But for now we're going to pay attention to the front bumper. So as you've seen earlier in the clip, the main damage for this was through the bottom end. So it has split the bumper in half and it has ruined the grille. So I have a brand new grille and all the parking sensors are fine. So we'll replace that grille out. When I spoke earlier, I mentioned I did have a potential trick up our sleeve, and that is this bit by here. So I managed to pick up a second-hand bumper for about 40 quid that was quite mangled, a bit worse than my one actually, but this bit at the bottom was structurally sound. Now you may think, why am I going to the faff, just buy another one, buy a new one? These bumpers second hand are £500–600, plus I would then have to paint it black. So my plan is to basically have a go. If it doesn't work out, I'll grab a bumper, but at least we can try and save some money. If it does pay off, then we're 450 quids in. So the aim is really going to be to cut along the natural sort of edge here. Same on my bumper, match that all up, plasti weld it in, get it all fit in as it should, and then I'm going to wrap the bottom gloss black. That's a temporary measure until I can have this bit painted, or potentially have the bumper touched up a bit because it is a bit knackered. But all we're going to do now is strip off what we need to, get all the grills and everything out, and basically get to plasti welding.
They tell me that I'm never gonna make it. They want me to do something that could make sense. They hate when I keep dreaming I'll be famous, but I don't give a fuck, I'ma keep chasing. I got all this potential that's deep inside of me, but they hate when you're successful cause they try to be. They sit there being judgmental because you're trying things, and they just want you to settle and do the right thing. So get a good job, don't slack off. Wake up every morning, make a good impression on your boss. Don't do anything that I wouldn't do, and when you're making money, make sure you don't spend it too soon.
So we have successfully got the old grille out. If you've ever worked on cars, you'll know the clips I'm on about, the ones you press in that are absolutely fiddly, an absolute nightmare. I would rather 500 nuts and bolts to take off than those clips, but they seem to be the way that they do it these days. So we don't need that anymore. So the aim now is I have a new grille. So I'm going to check this and hope that I've ordered the right part. So a little bit of an unboxing. And it's either going to be smiles all round, or it's going to be the wrong one. And when I say brand new second hand obviously, because I used eBay to pick it up. And it looks okay, to be honest. So it has all the mounts for the parking sensors, and it has the sensors in there. They've been cut, so I can take those out. But if I do a quick comparison, I would say it looks pretty spot on. So happy with that. What I'll do now then is just crack on with doing the bottom bit, because the grille will be the last bit to go in, then the parking sensors and so on. So the next bit of the process is to get the bottom bit of the bumper off. Now I'm going to be using my trusty budget Dremel to cut off the edge. Ken did have a decent idea, to be fair, which is use a bit of masking tape. Essentially the plan is to go along here, mark out where I cut it, and then transfer that to the other piece we've got, so that I can get them as near as possible. My aim is more to be cautious in terms of take a little bit more off, a little bit less off each, so that they overhang, and then cut and then trim back, because I don't want them to have a gap. I don't want to be filler in and all that type of stuff. My aim is to plastic weld them together, sand them smooth, and then wrap over. It's not going to look a 10-10 job, but the aim here is just that it looks better, and that I can get the car on the road, because I need a daily, and then I can look at tidying it up in the future if needs be. But as a temporary fix to save 400 odd quid, this is what we're going to do. So I'm going to get to cutting this now. All we're doing here is adding the masking paper and drawing onto the body line. This just means that I can transfer it to the bit we're inserting into the bumper, and just ensure that we can get the best sort of body line alignment as possible. The aim with the Dremel is not to be perfect, but just to sort of remove as little as possible, and then work my way back to get it aligned as best as I can. So unfortunately yesterday I ran out of time, so I've come back to the unit today to finalise where we were with the bumper. So I've now got it in the best position that I felt I could possible. I've plastic welded up both sides, and then I've ensured to add loads of tiger seal on the bottom. The plan is to essentially fill it in, because with a plastic weld, although it brings the panels together, they weren't perfectly seated because they are two different bumpers. So again, this will just add a bit more structure to it, and hopefully make it a bit better moving forward. The plan then will be to trim that down and wrap this bit in. I haven't decided. I'm probably going to go with a matte black, because gloss black vinyl is quite orange peely. It doesn't look the best, so I think matte will stand out a bit less. So the plan will be to flip this over, tiger seal the back, trim everything down, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, it looks okay. If it doesn't, worst case, I've wasted a few hours. So we have finished up the front bumper. Unfortunately, the time lapse and a few of the clips I took showing how we did it failed. What we decided to do was plastic weld both sides, add a bit of tiger seal, blend what we could, and then wrap it in this sort of satin matte black wrap. I think it looks quite good. It's one of those things, good from far but far from good. It'll do for a daily, but obviously it's not going to be a show car, so you know, hopefully it won't be under close inspection. What we are going to do now is change this horrid chrome bit on the front of the bumper. So with a bit of YouTube magic, that should change. And like that, the new grille is on. So I think it looks a lot better with the all black. Unfortunately, I didn't realise it didn't come with that center Mercedes badge. I don't think it looks too bad with the chrome, but I may order a black one depending on what I want to do in the future. Now the plan is to chuck this onto the car, get the car outside, run it up to temp, and fingers crossed we have no leaks or any issues. So we've managed to move the Merc outside. It's actually a decent day in Wales for once. It has been raining, but it seems to have dried up a bit now. So I've chucked in the left side. The headlights on these quite simple. They go in before the bumper, or if you just peel the bumper away, you can then get to the headlight. They have a bolt by here, a bolt down towards the arch, and then a bolt on top. So I'm just working my way now just to get them to line up on the side as best as possible. And then when I put on the bumper, they may need some slight adjustment, and I'll do that. Everything else is pretty much together. The line for the washer jets for the headlight, that's all put together. When I put the bumper on, I'll connect all these bits here, which are for the sensors. So the next bit now, I'll tighten up this, get the bumper on, and we will have a look at running the car up to temperature. So it's either going to be a thumbs up or a thumbs down in terms of that, because there's not really much to show apart from maybe the dial going up. So let's get the bumper on and hopefully button up the last few bits. The front end of these Mercs are pretty easy to work on, to be honest. The headlight has 2 adjustment points which need to be fiddled with just to allow us to better align the front bumper with the wing and everything. Considering we've had the whole front end off, I am actually pretty happy with how the final alignment works out. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the eBay special grille and whether we should swap out that chrome piece for a gloss black bit. I've managed to get the bumper on. It all fitted relatively fine, no sort of issues, all the fittings and everything. Fortunately we had them, and nothing left over, which is a good sign. The next step now, as you can see, the car is absolutely bogging, so I'm going to give it a bit of a clean now. Same for the inside, it's a bit worse for wear, and then sort of hopefully show you it in its final form.
They tell me that I'm never gonna make it. They want me to do something that could make sense. They hate when I keep dreaming I'll be famous, but I don't give a fuck, I'ma keep chasing. I got all this potential that's deep inside of me, but they hate when you're successful cause they try to be. They sit there being judgmental because you're trying things, and they just want you to settle and do the right thing. So get a good job, don't slack off. Wake up every morning, make a good impression on your boss. Don't do anything that I wouldn't do, and when you're making money, make sure you don't spend it too soon. Fuck that, I'll do what I wanna do. I got a different path from everyone.
Hilariously, the weather has took a turn for the worse today, so it has started raining, so I've managed to find some cover just to show you the car in its final form. So we've repaired all the front bumper, ran it up to temperature, checked everything we need to, and pretty happy with it now. The main bit will be getting some miles on the clock and just seeing if there's anything else I need to do to it. That is everything to get it on the road. I do have a few plans in terms of refurbing the wheels, changing the badges, potentially wrapping it satin black, but let me know if you'd like to see that in another episode in the comments below. It may just be you know, a bit of a modification uplift. It's not going to be a show car or anything like that, but just get it looking a bit nicer day to day really. The paintwork is in pretty bad condition, so I do think a wrap would just make it look a bit better day to day. And if you have enjoyed today's episode, then please do feel free to subscribe. We do have a K-Truck rebuild, my R8, Ken's MX-5, and a few other sort of bits going on the channel soon. Like, comment and subscribe, and we will catch you in the next one.